For years, far too many years, you poured everything you had into her, and then some. You chased her shadow when she pulled away. You understood her silences better than she understood her own words. You waited patiently through days, weeks, sometimes months of cold distance. You gave her your time when no one else would. You gave her your full attention even when she barely looked your way. You offered her calm when your own heart was in chaos. And what came back to you? Almost nothing. Silence that cut deeper than words. Half-hearted excuses that rang hollow. Tiny, insulting crumbs of affection she tossed your way like you were supposed to be grateful. And still, brother, you stayed. You told yourself that real love required endless patience. You convinced yourself that your unwavering devotion would one day spark a real connection. But deep down, what you were really doing was something far more painful. You were begging, quietly, desperately, day after day, for the bare minimum of respect. Respect that should have been given freely, naturally, without you ever having to ask. When a man loves with no boundaries, with no bottom line, he doesn't win her heart. He slowly loses his own. She always knew the truth. She knew you were the constant. One short message, one late night sorry, one tiny sign of interest, and you'd come running back like clockwork. She knew you would move heaven and earth even when she left you on red for days. She knew you would still wait in the shadows even after she hurt you again and again. While your soul was bleeding into every effort you made, she offered only fragments, half-presences, lukewarm replies, moments of attention that felt more like pity than desire. And here is the cruel reality most men never want to face. When a woman feels absolutely certain that a man will never walk away, no matter how little she gives, she stops trying altogether. Interest fades into boring routine. Passion cools into quiet control. Desire quietly morphs into dominance. She no longer had to earn you, so she stopped. But something inside you refused to stay broken forever. One day, maybe after another ghosting, another excuse, another night spent staring at an empty screen, the pain shifted. It stopped being about her absence. It started being about the man you had become in her shadow. You looked in the mirror and finally saw it. You had handed your entire value over to someone who treated it like pocket change. Every time she gave less, you shrank. Every time she pulled away, you bent further. Until the brutal truth crashed into you like a wave, the kind of love you have to beg for, negotiate for, chase for. That love has already lost its dignity. No real man should ever remain in a place where only crumbs are served on golden plates. That realization wasn't just a thought. It was a fracture. It was the moment everything cracked open. And in that crack, you made the most powerful choice a man can ever make. You chose silence. You didn't scream. You didn't send paragraphs of explanations. You didn't try to hurt her back. You didn't beg one last time. You simply stopped. You went quiet. And brother, that silence became the loudest thing you've ever done. Because when a man stops explaining himself, stops justifying his existence, stops performing for approval, something ancient and primal wakes up inside him. His real power, the kind no one can take, begins to rise. At first, she didn't even notice the difference. She assumed you were sulking, playing a game, that you'd crack soon enough like always. But then she felt it. Something had changed in your energy. Your eyes no longer searched for hers. Your availability vanished. The predictability she had grown so comfortable with disappeared. What she once took for granted started to tremble. Your silence wasn't petty revenge. It wasn't weakness disguised as strategy. It was a declaration carved in stillness. I refuse to survive on scraps any longer. And even if she doesn't fully grasp it yet, even if she tells herself it's temporary, that single shift has already rewritten the entire story between you. Because the second a man stops pleading, he stops being controllable. The moment he chooses his own dignity above everything else, he becomes impossible to overlook, impossible to replace, impossible to forget. If you've ever reached that point, if you've ever chosen silence instead of humiliation, strength instead of desperation, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Relationship Psychology and turn on notifications, because this channel isn't about shallow pride or ego games. This is about raw self-respect, inner power, masculine evolution, and becoming the man you were always meant to be. And in the comments, leave me just one word: untouchable. Because when a man finally stops accepting crumbs, brother, he becomes exactly that, untouchable. When you stopped reacting, something deep inside her cracked wide open. She never admitted it. She never said it out loud, but she felt every piece of it. For so long, she had the remote control. One cold reply, one vague excuse, one half smile, and you would come rushing back. That was her comfort zone. That was her power. But this time, nothing. No chase, no messages, no emotional outburst. Her usual playbook failed completely. And that failure? That was her first taste of real defeat. The ugly truth is simple. The power of someone who doles out crumbs only lasts as long as someone else keeps picking them up off the floor. The moment you stood up straight and refused to bend anymore, her throne crumbled beneath her. She began noticing the shift even if she pretended not to. Your silence, the same silence she used to mock as weakness, started to haunt her. She no longer knew what was going on in your head. She couldn't read your emotions anymore. She couldn't tell if you still cared, if you hated her, if you had already moved on. That uncertainty, that's the real poison for someone who thrives on control. When a woman loses the guarantee of your attention, her whole sense of safety begins to collapse. You were her invisible anchor for years without her ever thanking you for it. Every time she disappeared, she could sleep peacefully knowing you'd still be there when she decided to reappear. You were her emotional safety net, her ego's favorite validation machine. But when that safety net suddenly vanishes, panic sets in. Quiet at first, then louder and louder. No matter how confident she acts on the surface, inside she's starting to feel the exact helplessness you lived with for so long, the crushing feeling of not being chosen back. Your distance is forcing her to stare straight into the mirror she avoided for years. She no longer has your energy to feed from. No more late-night listening sessions. No more understanding without judgment. No more presence she could take for granted. What once felt like a cozy position of power has turned into a cold, empty space. She's discovering, painfully, that her crumbs aren't enough anymore. Her old tricks don't land. And even though she keeps up the cold facade, even though she still posts like everything's perfect, deep down she's starting to realize something terrifying. The man she thought would always be easy to forget is turning out to be the one she can't replace at all. The silence she once used to punish you is now punishing her. Not because you're weaponizing it, you're not even trying, but because she built this cage herself. The ego always underestimates until it wakes up alone. And now the void you once filled is screaming back at her. Every day it reminds her of everything she carelessly threw away. Her fake strength melts into doubt. Her practiced indifference slowly turns into aching need. That's precisely why you must never go back to reacting. Never give her back the power it cost you rivers of tears to reclaim. Every single day you refuse to play, she feels the ground shifting beneath her. Every day you stay in your peace, another crack appears in her armor. Even if she never says it, even if she never shows a single tear, she's beginning to understand the painful truth. The weakness was never yours. It was always hers. She believed, truly believed, that you would never have the strength to leave. The day you stopped chasing her ghost, something sacred woke up inside you. For the first time in what feels like forever, silence didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like freedom. Real freedom. You were no longer a slave to notifications, no longer tortured by seen at 2 a.m., no longer measuring your worth by whether she chose to reply. And in that stillness, you started coming back to life. You finally understood the deepest truth of all. The real transformation was never going to happen in her heart. It was always going to happen in yours. Power isn't won back the day she returns crawling. Power is reclaimed the day you return to yourself, fully, unapologetically, completely. Little by little, you began noticing miracles in the smallest things. You slept through the night without waking up in anxiety. Your breathing became slower, deeper, calmer. Your thoughts grew sharp and clear again. The constant knot in your stomach unraveled into quiet peace. The anger you carried for so long turned into a steady, burning pride. The desperate hunger to be chosen by her transformed into the pure joy of choosing yourself every single morning. That new energy pulsing through you, that quiet fire, it's untouchable now. She can't reach it. She can't manipulate it. She can't dim it. What once made you vulnerable, your endless need for her, has hardened into the strongest shield you've ever carried. A man who rebuilds himself in silence gives off an aura most people can't even explain. He no longer begs for validation. He no longer waits for answers. He no longer wonders what she's thinking tonight. He simply lives, deeply, fully, freely. He enjoys his mornings. He celebrates his small wins. He protects his peace like it's sacred. And even if she can't see it with her eyes yet, she feels it in her bones. When a man changes his frequency, his absence stops hurting and starts commanding respect. You're not fighting for her attention anymore. You're building a life so solid that attention comes to you naturally. And that shift, brother, that calm, rooted, unshakable balance is what shakes her to her core. She keeps waiting for the old you, the one who broke without her, the one who apologized for things that weren't his fault, the one who lived for her crumbs. But that version of you is dead, gone, buried. In his place stands a man who is awake, centered, powerful, selective, a man who would rather walk alone than settle for less than he deserves. And the most beautiful part of it all? You don't have to prove a thing. No dramatic posts, no petty revenge, no public performance. Your quiet peace speaks louder than any rant ever could. A man who has returned home to himself doesn't announce his evolution. He radiates it. And that radiation pulls everything toward it without effort. Your power has left the battlefield of chasing. It now lives in pure attraction, in staying rooted, in guarding your energy like a fortress, in refusing, absolutely refusing, to return to any place that disrespected you. Because when a man finally respects himself at the deepest level, the entire universe begins to mirror that respect back to him. Even if she still doesn't understand what's happening, something in her subconscious already knows. What she once laughed at as weakness, she now quietly fears as strength. What she thought she owned completely is slipping through her fingers forever. The silence she once found so easy to ignore has become the heaviest weight she carries. At first, she told herself it was just a phase, a little pride, a temporary tantrum. You'd be back. You always came back. But days stretch into weeks, weeks stretch into months, and still, you don't return. When a woman used to absolute control suddenly realizes her spells no longer work, she enters a territory she has no map for, total uncertainty. Now she's the one checking your stories late at night. She's the one wondering if you're thinking about her. She's the one imagining who else might be getting the attention she once took for granted. Without even realizing it, she has stepped into the exact role you played for years. The one who waits, the one who hopes, the one who doubts everything. And the deepest irony of all? You didn't do anything dramatic. You didn't curse her name. You didn't blast her on social media. You simply stayed silent. But that silence hit harder than any argument ever could. Because the ego has no defense against a complete withdrawal of attention. It starts leaking out in small, desperate ways. She posts things that feel oddly targeted. She throws subtle shade, hoping you'll notice. She makes vague comments, meant to pull a reaction out of you. She won't come right out and say your name. But you'll feel the pull. And that feeling is the proof. She is no longer indifferent. She is rattled. True indifference never needs to provoke. Only hidden craving does. And right now, brother, you are her craving. You are the thing she can't have. You are the desire she can't satisfy. Every time she tries to pretend you don't matter, her own mind betrays her. She wonders if you've moved on. She pictures someone else in your arms. She asks herself if you still feel anything at all. That spiral of doubt turns into full-blown anxiety. There is no crueler punishment for an overinflated ego than the thought that someone else has stopped needing it. What truly destroys her isn't that she lost you. It's that you didn't even fight to keep her. Meanwhile, you're living in a completely different reality. You don't play games anymore. You don't wait by the phone. You don't dissect every little interaction. You simply exist, fully, peacefully, powerfully. And that calm existence is what disturbs her the most. She was ready for your breakdown. She was prepared for anger. She expected drama. Instead, she sees peace. She expected weakness. Instead, she sees strength. She hoped she could still push your buttons, but the buttons are gone. That massive gap between the broken man she imagined and the centered man standing before her, it dismantles her from the inside out. And in that dismantling, her greatest weakness stands naked. She cannot accept that her control over you is finished. When a woman who fed you nothing but crumbs finally realizes she can't pull your strings anymore, she's left staring straight into her own emptiness. And that emptiness is exactly the same void you already climbed out of. You've grown taller, you've grown deeper, you've grown untouchable. She's still stuck running the same tired script, and for the first time in this whole story, the power is on your side. Now is the moment to become rock solid. Because right when that void starts screaming inside her, she will try to fill it. Not with real change, but with you. She'll reach out. She'll send the "Hey stranger" text. She'll drop a nostalgic memory. She'll provoke you just to see if you still care. But this time, brother, you don't bite. You don't chase. You don't explain. A man who has rediscovered himself has nothing left to prove. Your strength lives in your restraint, in the choice not to reply instantly, not to act from old wounds, not to let history repeat itself. She isn't looking for your words. She's hunting for your weakness. She wants confirmation that she can still walk right back in whenever she pleases. But when you meet her with calm silence, with polite distance, or even with gentle indifference, she crashes headfirst into a wall she never saw coming. A man who is finally whole without her. Don't fall for the nostalgia trap. Don't buy the sudden "I miss you." Don't believe the crocodile tears. A woman who gave you crumbs for years doesn't wake up one morning ready to give everything. She only returns because her ego is starving, not because her heart has changed. And you are not here to feed her ego anymore. You are here to protect your own peace. If you ever choose to respond, do it from a place of total calm, never from anger, never from need, never from hope. If she asks why you never came back, give her the cleanest, most devastating truth there is. Because I learned how to be happy without you. Say it quietly. Say it peacefully. Say it with the serenity of a man who already won. That one sentence will disarm her more than 1,000 arguments ever could. If she truly wants back in, she will have to earn it. Not with words, not with promises, but with consistent, undeniable change. Words are cheap. Consistency is expensive. But above all, remember this forever. Not everything that comes back deserves to stay. The man you've become no longer belongs to the place that once broke him. If life brings her across your path again, look at her without bitterness. Thank her silently for the lesson. Smile softly and keep walking. Because your victory was never about winning her back. Your victory was realizing you never needed to. The old weakness was thinking her attention defined your worth. The new strength is knowing your worth exists with or without anyone's approval. And even if she searches for you now, even if she looks at you with desire, regret, or confusion, inside you there will be no more pain, only peace, deep, unshakable, earned peace. So look at yourself now, brother. Really look. Look without shame. Look without anger. Look without fear. The man who once survived on crumbs is gone forever. In his place stands someone new. Stronger, wiser, calmer, more centered than ever before. You've gone from begging for scraps of attention to giving yourself the full feast of self-love. You've gone from waiting to be chosen to choosing yourself every single day without apology. And that transformation didn't come from rage. It didn't come from revenge. It came from evolution. Pure, quiet, relentless evolution. Your silence was your cocoon. Every day you stayed quiet, you healed deeper. Every time you chose peace over chaos, you grew taller. Every moment you refused to go back, you became more powerful than the day before. And the greatest irony of the whole story? You didn't do any of it to prove a point to her. You did it out of respect, first and foremost for yourself. Because real self-respect doesn't shout. It simply exists. And the moment it exists, the whole world begins to feel it. She can keep pretending you don't matter. She can keep posting like she's unbothered. She can try to replace you 100 times, but you already know the truth she's still running from. Her indifference was never strength. It was armor, and armor cracks when the man behind it stops needing it. Because the one who truly wins isn't the one pretending to be fine. It's the one who has learned to be at peace, truly, deeply, unshakably at peace. And you, brother, you've done exactly that. You turned wounds into wisdom, silence into strength, absence into unshakable balance. Today you no longer search for her reminder, and because of that, she will never be able to forget you, because the man who walks away with calm dignity leaves the deepest mark of all. The man who refuses to react earns the highest respect. The man who rebuilds himself from the ashes becomes a legend in the mind of the woman who underestimated him. And that, my brother, is the ultimate weakness of any woman who only ever offered crumbs, to realize too late that she let go of a man who can never, ever be duplicated. So keep walking tall. Never look back. Never beg for closure. Never wait for apologies. Your closure was your growth. Your victory was your rebirth. And now you know the most powerful truth of all. There is no greater strength than the ability to leave with dignity and never need to return. Because the respect you plant in yourself becomes the strongest magnet in existence. If you've ever chosen your dignity over your desires, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to Relationship Psychology and turn on the bell because here we don't talk about pride games. We talk about purpose, peace, and real masculine power. And drop one word in the comments: untouchable. Because when a man stops eating crumbs, brother, he becomes untouchable, completely, beautifully, permanently untouchable.